Hey, what's up guys? So, let's talk about chapter 109. Sorry I didn't have a discussion for you guys last weekend. As you may already know, I had some copyright issues with my Season 3 reactions, so I had to sort that out and figure out a new format so that my Season 3 videos didn't get blocked worldwide over and over again. If you want to check out my Season 3 reactions so far, and my first Season 3 video in the new format, which is now a review and discussion as well as some reaction clips, I'll leave a link in the description. But for now, let's get back to the manga. Before we do though, I want to make sure you guys know these videos are going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you haven't read the latest chapter, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. So, chapter 109. What a chapter, guys! Really, what a chapter. We got lots of Gabby, and more Gabby. Yes, Isayama, give us more of that, says DarkLogic in a flat and sarcastic tone. Okay, I'll stop. You gotta admit though, the scene where she gets knocked over by the horse and professes that the devil somehow made it happen is fucking comedy gold. But anyway, we are not talking about Gabby and Falco in this video. We are going to be talking about the other shit that's happening in this chapter between all that stuff, which is obviously much more important to the actual plot moving forward than what's going on with Gabby and Falco right now. I'm sure Gabby will have a big role to play later on, but right now it's basically just character development, but this is definitely going somewhere. Otherwise, I don't think we would be focusing so much on her character right now. You know, to have practically a whole chapter dedicated to her. But I already talked a lot about that in my review. In this video, we have much more important things to talk about, like what's happening with the rumbling. In this chapter, we got a scene with Zachary and Kiyomi, and based on their dialogue, it sounds like they are actually planning to test out the rumbling. That sounds pretty dangerous, but I guess it's also necessary. I mean, you obviously want to test something out before you go ahead with it, especially if it's, you know, like world domination type stuff. But anyway, it also seems to suggest that Zachary seemed to be aware of Erin's plan to attack Marley before it even happened, or maybe was even involved in making it happen somehow. This came as a bit of a surprise to me, but I guess this has been hinted at before, and I just didn't catch it. But anyway, this is pretty huge, because I was under the impression that Eren had acted totally on his own. At least that's what it kind of made it seem like. But as we are all learning, it is slowly being revealed that other people, possibly several others, are in fact involved with Eren's decision to take this action, to go ahead with this attack on Marley, including Zachary. Not only that, but he and Kiyomi appear to be conspiring to test out the rumbling. I mean, we know that Zeke must have been involved somehow. Obviously, his influence, at least by proxy, has caused Eren to go this route. But there's a whole other circle of people around him that are helping to make this happen. And as we will talk about in a little bit, those people include Yelena and Flock. But anyway, since he and Kiyomi appear to be conspiring to test out the rumbling, which I am assuming is against the wishes of the Survey Corps and the Garrison, which is the faction that Pixis is the leader of, it seems that Paradis has diverged into two different ideologies, two different sides, two different factions of belief. On one side are the characters that want to try to get along with the rest of the world and find a way to peace without having to use the rumbling. And the other side, of course, are the people that feel like the rumbling is absolutely necessary for them to survive. And this whole web of connections and different people's agendas could have a whole host of implications for Paradis and the future of our characters. But we'll talk about that more in depth in another video. For now, I want to talk about this apparent test run of the rumbling. It seems that Zachary and Kiyomi and whoever else that is involved in this plan are not willing to leave things up to chance. They want to see if this rumbling thing will actually work. And it seems they are going to use this aircraft, which uses iceburst stone as fuel, to observe what happens from above when they do that. Now the big question is, how exactly do they plan to accomplish that? We already know that the Survey Corps and the Garrison both seem to want to keep Eren and Zeke as far away from each other as possible, and only want to use the rumbling as an absolute last resort. However, of course, there are a whole host of other characters who see this rumbling as Eldia's salvation, and the only way to protect themselves is an all-out assault. Not to mention the people who seek to gain wealth and power through the use of this extremely destructive weapon, which obviously Kiyomi and the leaders of Hizuru seem to be on that boat. Better to be at the right hand of the devil than in his path, right? Now it is also mentioned in this chapter that Shiganshina district was being evacuated. But why? Is this the place where they plan to test the rumbling at? I certainly hope not. First of all, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to do this inside the walls. They now have the entire island at their disposal, so wouldn't it make more sense for them to test it in a place that had no inhabitants or buildings? Because now they're just left with this hassle of having to evacuate the civilians and then have to rebuild the district all over again if the rumbling actually works. But maybe there is a specific reason why they want to do it in Shiganshina that we haven't been told or I just haven't picked up on yet. Obviously this is Erin's hometown, so maybe that has something to do with it. Or maybe they're evacuating people for an entirely different reason. In my review, I suggested that they might be evacuating because they expect an attack from Marley sooner or later. However, that doesn't make too much sense either because Marley could potentially attack from any direction. They could easily go around the island to the north and bust in through the back door. And Reiner mentioned that Zeke, and probably most of Paradis, aren't expecting an attack to happen right away after the massive blow they made to Marley's military. So could there be any other reason that they would want to evacuate Shiganshina district? Well, for the moment, I can't really think of anything, but if you have any ideas for why they might be doing this, go ahead and share them in the comments. Alright, so let's move on to the scene with Hanji, Flock, and his, well, flock of evil minions, and the other scene with Yelena. And sorry, I didn't mention the Yelena scene in my review. It turns out I somehow accidentally skipped the section of script that was discussing this when I recorded my review. But we're going to talk about it right now. And the reason I want to talk about both of these scenes together is because they both concern Flock, who is, as Isayama has stated, is going to have a big role to play in the story moving forward. So we're going to do this a bit backwards and begin with the scene with Yelena. So in the scene we see that Yelena is being held in what looks like an isolated building away from town. Pixis begins talking to her, stating that his suspicion of her arose as a response to her coming off as trying to desperately not be suspicious. You're not supposed to do that, Yelena. That's what a guilty person would do, you dummy. He then begins to tell her that he noticed that the soldier who was assigned to keep an eye on her suddenly changed during the celebration for the opening of the rail system 10 months prior. During this time it was Flock who was the one suddenly accompanying her. So, since Flock was just locked up for leaking sensitive information, and Flock was staying with her in the lodgings the night of the celebration, and Erin's house is apparently not too far from there, and it was right after that that Erin started making things weird, Pixis connects the dots and concludes that Yelena must be involved. But he doesn't mind, of course, because that means he gets to interrogate a sexy lady. But don't worry, he's not going to torture her, hopefully. No, he's just going to sexually harass her until the Me Too movement comes along and destroys his career. Yeah, cringy. Anyway, let's backtrack to Flock and Hanji in the courtroom. So based on what's been revealed so far, we know that Flock and his minions let loose the flying monkeys of information about Eren and the volunteers being confined, and probably the information about Shiganshina district as well. Apparently the Survey Corps are now rolling in dough too. Hey, send some of that my way, Hanji. I'm broke, like, all the time. But you can help with that by donating $1 to my Patreon. But being as Flock was responsible for leaking this information and was likely present when Yelena allegedly met with Eren, it seems that he really is going to have a big role to play moving forward. And it looks like that role is going to be one of a revolutionary leader or revivalist, possibly similar to the role Grisha played before he came to the island. He demands that Eren be freed, and that he is the one who will lead Eldia to victory. He's also got a big heart-on for the idea of this new Eldian empire, which Hanji corrects him is not currently an empire, just a nation. Flock's definitely got some very romanticized ideas of what the Eldian Empire should be and what it was before, and is definitely looking to stir up some shit to achieve that. His goal is to get Eren freed so that he and the other stormtroopers can follow him to Eldia's victory. So what does this have to do with Zachary and the Iceburst Stone airship? Well, obviously a lot. These characters all have one big thing in common, that they want the rumbling to be readily available to use whenever they see fit to do so. Because of that, I think it's safe to assume that they are all working together, either intentionally or unknowingly by proxy, because they are all moving towards the same goal. Eren is the pivotal character in all of this, and currently he's one of the only characters that we have no idea where he stands. And by leaking this information, Flock has effectively caused anxiety and distrust in the public for their relatively new leaders. It is suggested that the narrative being pushed is that the Survey Corps are sacrificing their integrity, and possibly even the safety of Eldia, in favor of accumulating massive wealth, placing the seeds in the mind of the citizens that the Survey Corps are or have become just as corrupt as the government who reigned before them. This will inevitably cause instability in Paradis moving forward, possibly even dissent, which we seem to already be seeing evidence of. This is going to make it a lot harder for Hanji and the other factions to achieve their goals, whatever they are at this point after Eren's attack. With this on top of Historia's pregnancy, it's obvious that someone wants to keep Zeke alive long enough for him to get together with Eren and use the rumbling. Now we all know that Zeke has got some kind of ulterior motive for what he's doing right now. It's obvious that his focus is not solely on the survival of the Eldian people, and seeing as he's going to die soon anyway, if he has a plan, which he does, it's gotta be a big one. One that's going to leave a lasting impact on the world even after he's passed his powers on to Historia, if that even happens. What this has me wondering is, what if it's not Zeke's intention to use the rumbling at all? Maybe his real intention is to get himself into a position where he could use Eren to manipulate the memories of the Eldian people. Obviously he's gonna have to manipulate Eren first to do that, because Eren's the one who's gonna have control, but I definitely think that's well within Zeke's ability to do so. Now we've talked about the possibility of Eren and Zeke using the rumbling a lot on this channel already, but one thing we haven't really talked about is the possibility of Eren using the rumbling to alter everyone's memories. This is something one of the MPs mentioned in a previous chapter, and in fact, I think that this might actually be the direction we're headed in. This memory altering ability that has been talked about throughout the series has to come back into play somehow. And let's not forget that if that happens, there are at least two people among our Eldian characters who might be immune to this and end up being the key to changing things if Eren and Zeke do try to do this. And those two people are of course Mikasa and Levi. This scenario would be huge for Mikasa, because what it would mean is that if Eren altered everyone's memories and started down a path that Mikasa couldn't follow, and she ended up being the only one who didn't get her memories wiped out and who still knew the truth, that would put a huge burden on her shoulders. She would have to choose whether to go along with Eren and Zeke's wishes or take it upon herself to oppose them and Hizudu, virtually alone. Alright guys, that's it for this Attack on Titan chapter 109 discussion. Here's some questions for you. What do you think is going on in Shiganshina district? Do you think they're going to test the rumbling there, or is there something else happening? How and when are they going to get Eren and Zeke together with the Survey Corps and the garrison standing in opposition to them? And when they do, which I'm sure they will Zeke and Eren try to alter people's memories? And if so, what will they make them forget? Or what false memories might they try to impose? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and check out my Patreon if you want to help support this channel. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.